Alright, welcome everyone, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Legend of the Galactic Heroes, episode 23. Alright, so we have had a string of victories for Reinhardt and his admirals.
Yep. Yeah, lots of crazy stuff happening on both sides.
Yes, yes. Recently, within the confines of the Lippstadt War, Reinhardt has successfully lured out the majority of Braunschweig and his cohort's fleets, decimated them, sent them crawling back to Merkatz.
Yep.
And while the outcome of that war is already decided, the narrator teased a tragedy.
Which is interesting, because then it means, like, hey, we've got tragedies on both sides of the war now.
Yeah, on the Alliance side of things.
On the Alliance side, we had a civilian slaughter. And Jessica most likely became a martyr.
Yep.
And Yang will have to deal with that in whatever way he decides, which will be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're here within the midst of two basically internal nasty conflicts. Lots of deaths on both sides of things, in the Imperial side of things and the Alliance side of things. So, what are they going to focus on for this one?
Who knows?
So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, and then come back here for the discussion.
Well,
the war is over. We went through some crazy sequence of events here that led to it ending.
Yep.
It's part of the thing that makes me love Legend of the Galactic Heroes so much, is that there are so many times where they accelerate the pacing on the things that actually have to do with the exposition and kind of the wrapping up of events. So they almost montage their way through the highlights right after going through an incredibly tough character kind of decision moment with this tragedy. Yeah.
Right. Because I feel like, as far as the pacing thing goes, this show has made it very clear certain things that are going to happen.
Yes.
And because of that, they don't dilly-dally when it comes to actually doing those things that you know will happen, right? Because you know they're going to happen, so let's just do it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Nukes.
They nuked a civilian-populated planet. Now, here's what I think is rather kind of disturbing on a whole nother level here.
Yeah.
Is that this is something that they already had their equivalent World War III moment. Meaning, in this universe, basically.
Right, yeah, the whole thing of the 13 Days War.
Now, there has been constantly theorized in our world what would happen if nuclear war came about. And I believe the line, I don't remember who said it, but it was I don't know with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. The idea that it would end the human race.
Yep.
So we never use these weapons that we still have thousands of, tens of thousands of. Now, I'm not 100% sure on the numbers here, because it's...
Well, if you're talking about countries versus the human race as a whole...
I'm talking about the human race as a whole, yeah.
I think tens of thousands is accurate.
Yeah, it's incredibly horrifying to think about. This show basically says, hey, it's way in the future, technology-wise, from that point. Nukes is about as terrifying as it's gotten in terms of WMDs.
Yeah, you don't get more terrifying than that, really.
Yeah, you just get bigger nukes, basically.
Actually, scratch that. No, they have gotten stuff that's comparable. The defense weapons on the fortresses are comparable, because those were in the millions per shot, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that those are not weapons that fire on civilians. In fact, they almost really can't be. They could fire if a civilian ship would come close.
Right, but it's for mass amounts of military... of just ships. It could be civilian ships, theoretically. But,
exactly.
But mainly it's just when you got things in space and you need to be able to take them out. In a lot of ways, better than nukes ever could, because they're so far apart.
Right. But the problem with this is that almost all the conflict thus far has been in space.
Yep.
And yet, Well, you know that whole incident with Jessica Edwards, you know, that was kind of weak sauce. That was the Empire.
That was interpersonal, like weapons and things like that, or anti-personnel weapons. And
let's just nuke a whole planet.
Yeah.
So that's not just war crimes. That's the kind of thing that will change the way the Empire's government is run. They brought it up as a thing of, because of this, the nobility in general is no longer necessary. Meaning, like, they are more of a threat to our way of life, to our actual existence, than actually good. Now, I'm going to throw out a bone here, in some ways, to the nobility. I don't know how much better military rule will be.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
Eventually.
Right. This... in a lot of ways, as dark as this is to say...
Yeah.
This...
it's going to get worse.
This is going to get worse.
Yeah.
Like, even though I have no idea what's going to happen next, right? Yeah. This won't be that bad by comparison, you know? It's still, the tragedy.
It'll be top 5 material for sure.
It'll be top 5 material, but it will not be the top, right? Like there will be things that will be much worse than this. And this is one of the reasons why this event, I feel like, is so important. It's not the fact that it happened, it's Reinhardt's response to it.
Yeah.
And Oberstein's manipulation of it.
Yeah.
And the fact that Reinhardt still keeps Oberstein around.
Yeah.
Because Reinhardt has always known that Oberstein was a snake, right? But he's like,
hey, so he keeps him close.
Yeah. He's a useful snake, right? He's done things for Reinhardt that are very helpful.
And unfortunately, this is an example of him being a useful snake.
Yes.
Because Reinhardt won. He won with way less loss to himself and his own men. However, the loss to his character, his own maybe conscience, if you will,
because the fact that he didn't act decisively, the fact that he basically,
he's like, I need to think about this.
And the don't send the fleet out just yet, you know, that's an example of basically
the stuff that we were talking about.
You know, the idea that this is kind of just the beginning. It was a decision that Reinhardt made without necessarily being willing to consciously acknowledge the decision, which in a lot of cases makes it a lot more dangerous, because then it makes him more likely to potentially do something like that in the future, right?
Of course. And this is the type of patterns that you build up, that is something where, okay, it leads to greater problems down the road.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that builds up, again, the eventual problems that will happen between Kircheis and Reinhardt.
Yeah.
Now, I would say, in a lot of ways, it expedites certain things within the plot, meaning the conflict between Reinhardt and Yang eventually will be accelerated towards it happening on a more direct measure. And hopefully, in some ways, it would also accelerate certain aspects of the drama between Kircheis and Reinhardt.
Sure.
Because there are a lot of people in the fleet, apparently, that kind of believe things to have gone this way because of the rumors being spread, which is something that was brought up by Steinmetz, thankfully given us info through the person giving us these really helpful subs for the show.
And the problem, this is why you don't do it. This is why you even though it worked, right? That is not a long-term, even not taking the morality of it into play, that is not a long-term effective strategy, because people will wonder, things like, how did you have a ship there? You know, when it happened, when the fleet arrived later, that seems kind of sketch, you know. That will call into question one of the things that Reinhardt has had on his side that has made him so indestructible, and that is that the people under him are absolutely fiercely, undyingly loyal. And the fact that, now granted, this is a meta thing, but for the trajectory of the show and this conflict point of conflict.
Yeah.
The fact that Merkatz went to Yang, I think is sort of
telling.
Is telling, because it's basically saying Merkatz, one of the most like good upstanding guys, right?
Mm-hmm. On the Empire side of things, because there are a lot of others like that, but he's the old dog as well.
Right. Well, yeah, and even on the side of the Empire, but since he's the old dog, like you were saying, he has the experience. He will have, assumedly the most sort of wisdom about this whole thing and being able to see the patterns before the younger, like more gullible, less experienced people see them.
Right.
So that's kind of an issue.
And this is something where I have to say, this is something that is not so simple though as just get rid of Oberstein.
I think it is.
No, it's not. It's not at all.
Okay.
I vehemently disagree. Because the one thing that we know that Reinhardt really, I don't think he can know, because they didn't tell us, is whether or not that 6 hours info was right or not.
That's true.
So this is my theory here. Mm-hmm. Regardless of whether or not the 6 hours thing is correct.
Yeah.
Which I don't think it is, by the way.
I don't either.
Regardless of whether or not it is, the fact that Oberstein sent the recording ship specifically to be there within 4 hours, not 6 hours, is the most telling thing.
Right.
Now, again, Reinhardt has no idea regarding the whole setup of these things needing to be done in a secretive way, moving in this specific way, unless any of these characters that Oberstein is directly working with decide to snitch on Oberstein and go to him, like go in some ways up the chain of command and go, do you really know how actually everything went down? Because Oberstein isn't the only one that would have this info then. There's the actual spy, which let's get his name there, because he was something that was rather cool that they gave. The subtitle is basically gave us the name of this guy, even though he's very
in Braunschweig's.
Braunschweig's.
Yeah, it was like
Yakov.
Here
he is. Jakob Hauptmann.
Yeah,
Lieutenant Commander. Gotcha. Yep. So he would be the one that was passing along this info. The show never overtly tells us the actual time. We just have to trust Oberstein.
Yeah, and so that's the problem. Is like the reason why at least if, and granted, I'm only me, right? But if I were in Reinhardt's situation like this, right, there are multiple angles of why Oberstein is the most dangerous of potentially anyone in existence right now for him.
For Reinhardt.
For Reinhardt. Is because he is doing the dirty deeds for Reinhardt.
Right.
That means that theoretically he has secrets that could destabilize Reinhardt's rule if they were let out, right?
Right.
So on that angle, it's dangerous. One, then there's also the fact that he's doing things behind Reinhardt's back, which means that he's not actually following your orders, which means that
he's not entirely loyal.
He's not entirely loyal to you, which means he is a big problem, right?
Right.
Then there's also the idea that he could theoretically, if he wasn't loyal to you, he could with a catalyzing event like this.
Yes.
You definitely don't want him to be around, because he could tell people whatever he wanted. He could tell people, those, like, how do you know the rumors didn't come from Oberstein? Like, or the people that Oberstein employed. Like, that's why it's such a problem in my mind.
Right.
And the whole thing of Reinhardt doesn't know whether Oberstein's info was correct or not. The fact that he sent out the ship ahead of time and didn't tell Reinhardt, that means that he at least had good potential reason to believe that the info wasn't correct, and he still passed it on to Reinhardt as if it was. So that's basically saying, I'm not actually going by what you decide.
Right.
Get rid of him. Like,
from that angle of things, if that was all it was, yes, I would be with you. However, this is not new information to Reinhardt. He brought Oberstein in with all of that in mind.
Yes.
All of this is entirely fitting within his character there. So, in that space, we need to actually admit that Reinhardt doesn't really care. And this is the part that I feel like is in some ways even more insidious here, is that Reinhardt does care a little bit, in that he is not certain about how this is going to play out. Now that things have played out ridiculously well for him, I don't see Reinhardt as the kind of person to look at the past thing and go, you know, you kind of manipulated me there.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I could see Reinhardt in maybe the next like few episodes or so as he starts to consolidate power within the Empire.
Yeah.
He puts maybe a couple preventative measures to keep Oberstein from gaining, like you said,
mm-hmm.
like blackmail power over him.
But
as long as Reinhardt keeps ascending and eventually attains the title of Supreme Overlord Dictator,
God King
of everything, I don't think Reinhardt cares.
But like, yes, I totally see what you mean.
Yeah.
But by Reinhardt doing that, he is actually being a bit cocky, because he's basically
he's always been cocky.
No, yeah. He
runs in and starts fights when he doesn't need to.
Okay, yes,
like
definitely.
This is in line with his character.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But like, this is where maybe strategically take your chips off the table. You've already won so big with this thing. Mm-hmm. Get rid of the person that could potentially ruin it. I don't think Oberstein would probably be able to contribute too much more to Reinhardt's ascendance than he already has.
Well, like the Alliance exists. He could totally be helpful in that regard, though.
Sure.
And do you think he's going to stop with just the Alliance? When Fejon gets involved in all this, Oberstein will be really useful. No, I'm going to throw out there the prediction that Kirstein will not last beyond Oberstein. That's the point. But Oberstein will not last to the end beyond Reinhardt.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Oberstein is going to go down long before Reinhardt does. Because I think that's the point of this show, is that it's Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Right.
People are going to die. The main characters are going to die.
Yeah.
Even if they don't both die,
a lot of them are going to die.
Yeah. When I mean both, I'm talking specifically Reinhardt and Yang.
Yes.
And I do think that on some level, Reinhardt...
I think he's going to die.
I think he's going to die.
He's going to die. I don't see how Reinhardt could really, like, it's not going to be something where, like, him and Yang go, like, you know, go to a farm and, you know, drink tea and, you know, like coffee together and just reminisce and, you know, philosophize or whatever. Like,
no, not as the end, but I could see that as a scene happening where they drink tea together.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And that scene has to happen. Like,
I can't wait for something like that. But I just got to say, Oberstein as a character did what is Oberstein's way of doing things.
Yep.
And I think Reinhardt is smart enough in that regardless of whether or not he's aware of this, he doesn't really care for now. Because I think he's always thought at some point, I will use this guy until he has absolutely nothing to give me.
Right.
But until that point, I'm just going to keep him on a leash really close.
Yep.
Except this is the one part in some ways where I would say the flaw of Reinhardt's pride is something where he still is not completely lacking in self-awareness, is that he acknowledges that Kir Heis wouldn't have let him do this.
Yes,
and that's something that he would also be okay with, meaning that he is okay with Kir Heis in some ways manipulating him, as he is in the same way of Oberstein manipulating him,
right?
Because they would see a better outcome than him. So there is a good side to this with regards to manipulation here.
Oh, definitely.
It's a little bit terrifying, but
that's one of the other things that I think is really important that Reinhardt isn't seeing here, because Reinhardt, that's what they've set up. Reinhardt doesn't have the beyond immediate like the potential negative consequences for his actions, right?
Okay.
He sees the gain but not the potential loss, right? And here this is something where he's gained a ton as a result of this, but the potential loss is also huge. And in fact, the immediate guaranteed loss is also pretty huge too, in that by him saying Kir Heis would not have allowed me to do this if he was here, that's also basically acknowledging that this is going to be something that will be so anathema to Kir Heis that it will absolutely damage the bond and the connection and the loyalty between them. And that's something that up till now he is not necessarily with Kir Heis specifically, but with his troops he has held as one of the highest like priorities.
Okay, so a question then. Do you think that when he sees Kir Heis again, he's going to be like filled with shame?
No. But it's something, I mean, maybe.
Okay, then do you think then the other side of things is that then do you think that he's going to lie to Kir Heis?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I don't think so. But
so he's going to basically do the middle option, which is in kind of some ways the best option. It keeps the connection strong by saying, I made a mistake.
Right. But
I didn't act decisively enough. But there's no way he could have known if he actually could have stopped it. That's the part where I feel like he's going to in some ways feel like he kind of gets off okay on this, and is that, well, I have no idea if I could have actually stopped this because they attacked early.
Right, because he had the bad information.
Right.
Then, yeah, even if he had done the thing, he might not have stopped it. But by making that decision, and people were able to pick up on the fact that he made that decision, that's the thing. Of course
they could have.
Well, right. But if he had, like... Yeah. Because the ideal situation, and of course Reinhardt couldn't have predicted this, but the ideal situation is he still goes full gung-ho, like, yeah, let's go stop it. And then because of the bad information, it still happens. He reaps the reward, but it's very clear to everyone involved that he was doing everything within his power to keep it from happening.
But that is what happened in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, from the citizens' perspective, that's why this worked, is that he still sent his fleet out there. Eventually, the fact that the fleet basically was then sent out is that point.
And in a lot of ways, one of the best potential covers for the scout ship being out there before the fleet is, well, yeah, of course you don't go in blind, So we had intel that it was going to be at this time. It was earlier, like if you even bring up the story, because ideally for politics and stuff, you don't say why, you just say that this is what
is a tragedy.
Yeah, this is a tragedy, right? It's the whole deflection thing, because otherwise people can prove you wrong.
Yep. Because there's all kinds of stories that could then pop out from this.
Exactly.
Now, this is the thing that I wonder, instead of going at it from the Kierheis, Oberstein, Reinhardt triangle thing, how about all the other admirals? So we got a little bit of a perspective from them here by having Mittermeier and Ruenthal kind of talking about the nobility and basically saying that they're sick of them and they're ready for their time, that it's our time. What's cool about that is that we get to see that they are in some ways kind of buying the story, but even if they don't fully buy the story in their heart of hearts, they are so done with the old way of the Empire's doing things that maybe if Reinhardt presents a bright enough future,
that they'll be okay with it.
They'll basically go, you know what? We might have been able to do things better in the past, but we can't look at the past for answers. We need to strike on towards the future with a golden, wind or something like that.
The Golden Bomb Dynasty, too much,
too much connotation.
Yeah,
there.
they need a rebranding kind of. But,
right. But that's something that people are going to have to live with. The fact that this kind of tragedy happened in the Empire, while a very similar style of one, not to the extreme numbers and
but in a lot of ways,
side of ways,
does it really matter? Because if you say that one's worse than the other, then that's kind of just playing the game of measuring numbers as like lives as numbers.
Yes, you're right.
It's kind of the same. A horrible thing happened that shouldn't have, and a bunch of people that were innocent were killed.
Yes.
Right? Like, there you go. Because there were some bad people in power, right? Not too much more to that. Although this one might stand out a bit more in the history books,
Right. Like now I would say what's interesting here is that this one will shape the governmental structure of the Empire. They've been doing the stories of the Empire and the Alliance in a very parallel type way.
Yes.
One of the things that we've been kind of expecting for a while now is that the Alliance's their governmental structure would be forever altered post Civil War conflict.
Yes.
If this is how the Empire's is going, I am very worried about the alliances.
Yeah, that's...
We're about to basically be in a situation where there are no good factions. There are only good people trying to do the right thing in the midst of their faction.
If that. It's probably going to get to the point where it's just powerful entities, duking it out and millions die in their wake, right? Because the political, reformation or whatever that would happen in the Empire is you have a God King Emperor now.
Well,
for whatever reasons and stuff behind it.
That is the expected route that it's looking like it'll be thus far, is some form of rule by military might. It'll be pretty despotic as far as things go.
It's and there are plenty of reasons for it. We're at war. We can figure that out once we're not at war. this war's been going for 150 years, so who knows if it'll ever end. So maybe this is just something that'll go on for a while.
Yeah.
Who knows, but...
Right.
Yeah.
But it could end up basically being the same way on both sides.
Yep.
We need a military leader who operates autonomously with no checks and balances.
Yeah.
And what would... If the Empire's version is built around basically the admiralcy being the new nobility, like that would in some ways make sense based on their style. It'll be kind of a military meritocracy of sorts, where it becomes a thing of where if you ascend to the rank of admiral, I designate your protection of this region of space, and thus you have political power, in that respect. But it all flows up pyramid style to the top of the person who designates who will be the admirals. There's so many lines of corruption that go on.
Oh, definitely. It's kind of just doubling down on what the Empire had, but without the bloodline aspect, because what the Empire always sort of pretended to be was a meritocracy. Now,
but it's not.
It was a corrupt meritocracy, right? Where
it wasn't even. It was the
Well, right. Yeah. But that was why Darwin's law, why Reinhardt and everybody won. Right,
was because competent.
They were competent. The other people weren't. They died. Right.
Yep.
So it's.
So now all the competent, powerful people are left.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you know?
And they will only bring people up under them that manage to prove themselves. Because hopefully the pressure is high enough in this wartime that it's for actual competence and not favors done on the side.
Oh, but how things go.
Definitely.
These are human beings, and not only that, these are young. Like these are young men. Like there's going to be so many. I'm almost like guessing right now. It's going to be a thing of a drawn out version of what happened with Braunschweig. Is that one by one, each one either falls to some level of corruption or delusion. Basically, the disease of the mind can't, in this essence here that the nobles suffered, is going to take a long time to settle in because it has not had 500 years to develop.
Right.
It is going to take a slower
and
more methodical type of poison as it spreads throughout here.
We might not ever see that in this actual show.
Yeah, we might not.
Because
that's a good point.
Yeah, 500 years and all that stuff.
It might only affect like one or two of them, really.
Yeah, one or two of them,
or maybe just Reinhardt, really.
Right. Or Reinhardt and maybe Bittenfeld, goes on another one of his happy,
panty hunting
sprees, right? But that's probably about it, because these people are young and they're going to die young. Right. The question is when this is all over, what is going to be the projected future for the new world that these galactic heroes
left behind?
Yeah, and leave behind.
This is just the Empire, mind you.
Oh, but it totally applies to the Alliance.
Well,
too.
It does too, but I would say it also could completely change depending on how the war is won or ended.
Yep, totally.
I said won or ended. There's different definitions.
And there's potential multiple wars here, because there's the war with the Alliance, and then there's the Fezzan Dominion doing their whole thing,
which is going to
happen. How's that going to go? Yeah.
So with the Alliance here, it's up to them really in some ways to get this right.
Yeah.
Because no, like let's be real here. Even if we have a Caesar kind of situation here where they give protective powers
to Yang
temporarily to Yang, and he keeps trying to give them away, and they don't take it, so he ends up basically put into a Caesar type position. Eventually, he needs to get it right, or he's doomed as well.
Right, because his advantage, in a lot of ways, it's the folly and the hubris of humanity to think that the rules that apply to everyone else for some reason don't apply to us because we're special.
Yes, that's true.
And in Yang's case, he isn't immune to it. He's much more aware of it than most people. He's a student of history. He's a student of history, and that really helps. And he has much further to go, right? He has a late start on the corruption train, kind of a thing, right?
Thankfully,
but that doesn't mean that he's not on the train, right?
Yeah,
he's just doing checks and balances to try and keep it in check. But eventually, if nothing changes, it will eat him.
I mean, he already has his very attractive and gung-ho Oberstein equivalent over there. So,
yes.
I'm just saying,
that's true.
War never changes, y'all.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I love this episode. I absolutely love this episode.
Yeah.
I was really hoping before the episode started that it would be an Alliance-focused episode, because I want to see what Yang does in response to the fact that Jessica was murdered, right?
Well, the Heinesen is now in a state
yeah,
of
exactly,
chaos.
right?
Yeah.
What is he going to do? Because he's been like sort of one foot in both worlds this entire time, right?
Yep.
Where he's using the power but trying to make sure that it's like, he treats it like a hot iron, right? It burns him whenever he touches it.
Give you some power, but don't make me make some.
Like he'll only move it for a little bit.
Right.
But now...
Yeah, he'll have to make some tough decisions.
He's going to have to make some tough decisions. And what is going to be his response to that?
Right.
Because that can show the trajectory of him over the course of the rest of his life.
I'll just tell you, you are the sum of the main people you spend the most time with. So
and that's why stand away from you, Reinhardt.
I
cut his head off and throw it out the airlock. Like,
but you can't. You can't.
No, but you can. It's the thing of it's the poker player that's got some of the house's money, and then they're like, I can get more, and it's like, no, just. And I know Reinhardt wants it all. He wants Reinhardt, the universe, right? Yeah. But
it hurts.
Precautionary measures, man. Like,
oh man. I loved that little callback to Steinmeitz basically being the one that stood up to Reinhardt in the movie. That was a cool little thing, and that he was the one that goes to Kircheis there. I kind of wanted to look and see on the bridge to see if he was there at the specific moment when they observed the chaos there. Let's see if they show kind of the general look of everyone. So the nukes go off.
Yeah, like
then they show people looking at the cameras, and it's just.
I really think
so. They don't actually know.
Yeah.
Right. So because he wouldn't be there, I guess, at that point anymore. But Kircheis, I'm really excited to see what your next step as a character is.
Yep.
I love that he was kind of talking to himself in that instance there.
Yeah.
When Your Own Justice and Lord Reinhardt's are no longer the same, what are you going to do, Siegfried Kircheis?
Yep.
It shows a maturity to his character that he's willing to be this introspective when he's so emotionally compromised and biased because it's his best lifelong friend brother, basically.
Right. And in ways that Reinhardt isn't. Because I didn't see Reinhardt having a conversation like this, right? Well, he had the whole thing of Kircheis wouldn't have let me do it.
That was the closest thing we got.
Right. But I'm really curious to see how Reinhardt deals with it once Kircheis confronts him on it.
Yep. Because that'll happen. That'll happen eventually. Let's kind of wrap up here. Mercats went over to the Alliance. I am all for that.
I'm very excited, but that also makes me worried about Reinhardt because, Mercats was going to be the other Kircheis that would be with you alongside it, and then it would make things go much better. But
Yep. I gotta say, I love that they set up tons of characters on alternate trajectories. Some went to the Fejon Dominion.
Yeah.
Now, those characters are not necessarily like anywhere important right now.
Right. They said they'd be happy farming or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But just think about the implications of this. The Empire was divided.
Yep.
At the end of the Empire's division, basically in this case, they become more unified than ever in some ways in praise and worship to their savior.
Yep. Our golden god.
Yep. Exactly. Now, what about the ones that survived the schism on the side of the Lippstadt side here? Very few actually reconstitute and go back into the Empire in this case because most of them die.
Well, yeah, like Ansbach, for instance, when he said he was going to kill Reinhardt, was that just because he wanted to get Braunschweig? Just swallow the damn poison already, right?
No.
Or was that actually something he was seriously like, I'm going to do that?
No, because he joined this thing initially. He didn't want things to go with the way that Lohengram's plan was. So we have three alternate trajectories here. We have those that are going to actually try to subvert Reinhardt over the course of the show.
Yeah.
Ansbach being one of them, but he represents kind of that group.
Oberstein.
Yep. Second group are those going to the Alliance. Mercats, in some ways the best of them.
Yep.
Going to their actual enemies. So that's the second thing. The third thing are those going to the Fejon Dominion that basically go, I just want to get away from this.
Right.
Now, those people all share in some ways the story of what happens when someone buys into the delusion of their own power.
Yep.
And maybe in some ways their own kind of God-given right to be
manifest
above
destiny, all that stuff.
to be above basically the law of man and all that. It's just they've seen it, and they've seen the destruction of it.
Right.
None of those people went to Reinhardt. I think that is very thematically appropriate.
Yes, that is a great point. That is a fantastic
that's
point.
just something I wanted to bring up here.
Oh, also, Merkatz is I don't
his
know
lieutenant.
His lieutenant.
Let me bring him up here.
What is his name? I don't know, but
he is a Chad.
But he is a Chad of the biggest big dick energy, like the most awesome sauce guy ever.
Schneider. Lieutenant Commander Bernhard von Schneider.
Yeah, Bernhard von Schneider.
Chad lad. Bro,
you are
absolute genius.
This is again one of those things where yes, Merkatz is not with Reinhardt, that makes me worried, but this guy is also not with Reinhardt, makes me worried, because that is one of those guys where it's this is why he's the example of why Reinhardt prioritized loyalty within his ranks so much, right?
Yeah,
because then you get things like this where they go above and beyond the call of duty, absolutely blow you away, and will live and die right by your side. Oh, man.
Now, I gotta look to see if he actually did have. Okay.
Yeah.
So he lied.
Yeah, he lied.
He did have an energy pack still in his gun.
Which makes sense, because otherwise, why would you say don't do it, right? If there was no ammo in there, it's just sir, yeah, sorry, I forgot to tell you, but I took out the ammo, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway, But yeah, so... Oh,
Schneider, you
are the best.
You are incredible. Now, what I think is amazing here is that not only that, he is the one that actively makes Merkatz choose Yang Wenli.
Oh.
And what's incredible here was that this was the guy that was going to fall on his sword as the dynasty died with him. Reminds you a lot of Greenhill. Kinda, right?
Yeah, no, it really does. Yeah.
So, again, there's the other thing of the wasn't Merkatz manipulated because of his daughter?
Yep.
Another tie to Greenhill there. The parallels are just crazy.
Yeah.
But the idea that he's saying, I've fought them for over 40 years, calling them the rebel army. How can I actually do that? But it's the thing of, will they even accept me?
Okay.
And
I'm gonna make a prediction here of what's gonna be one of my favorite character interaction duos of the show. It's gonna be Merkatz and Shankov.
Oh my god!
Because they are such polar opposites. They both have the Imperial heritage.
The Empire.
Even if Shankov grew up in the Alliance, but Imperial parents, right? So.
The best advisors for Yang Wenli being from the Empire is just too funny.
And it's going to be the different consciousnesses on the shoulders, where Shankov is going to be covered in lipstick and go do it, and Merkatz is going to be all right, so you don't want to do that, right?
I just want to see Merkatz in some ways being Yang, if you'll have me, I will put myself at your behest to stop what Lohengram is creating. And he's okay, I'm going to have you prove yourself. He slowly proves himself over time. Merkatz ends up becoming this legend in the ranks of Yang Wenli. And then eventually they're at big battles where Merkatz is then advising him on certain tactics and stuff. And they have moments where they're finish each other's tactics. That's what I was going to say.
Yes, absolutely.
I want to see almost a joke about that where it's all Merkatz, are we thinking the same thing? Absolutely. All right, let's go. Commence attack pattern, Delta. And everyone else is wait, is Merkatz literally somewhere on the same wavelength as the tactical and strategic genius, Yang Wenli? And then Merkatz, his own lieutenant, is you have no idea what he's talking about. I'm 87% sure I know what he's talking about, but that guy is actually crazy.
I would absolutely love to see that.
Yeah.
And you know what I would also love to see in a bit of a sadistic way?
What?
For the Watch. Merkatz being brought over, if he rises in the ranks, there could be people on Yang's side that are a bit unhappy with that, because now you have an Imperial noble who is now calling
he's not a noble.
Well, okay,
he's not a noble. No,
okay,
no. Don't even go there.
Okay. But you have high-ranking Imperial military guy, right? That was siding with the nobility at the very least, right?
Sure.
Is now being one of Yang's top admirals, commanders, whatever, right? And has his ear very closely.
And they execute him?
Not that they execute him necessarily, but there will be some crazy, potentially internal conflict within Yang's own fleet in a similar way that Reinhardt's decisions here causes conflict between him and Kirheis and things like that. There can because you got to have that on both sides in order for maximum juicy complication and whatnot. So
yeah, I don't know, man.
Maybe that's a wild tinfoil hat theory, but yeah.
Okay, but all right. This is just good stuff. I loved how much we covered within this episode here, and the Empire is going to be changed forever, and I'm looking forward with trepidation to see what happens next.
Yep.
This is Legend of the Galactic Heroes, y'all.
Last thing I gotta say, there were some wonderful things that they did visually for Braunschweig in his final moments visually. Because okay, the nobility in the Empire is totally corrupt and awful, and we've been waiting for this kind of stuff to happen, right?
Yeah.
But the idea of him still being in his throne room with barely any nobles in there,
fog almost on the floor,
and drinking and talking about the stories. Oh yeah, it's gonna be great and all that stuff, and it's just like the height of delusion, and then eventually when he goes in there and there's nobody, right?
That was the part I was talking about.
Yeah. That was so fantastic. That was perfect for the comeuppance.
And it's just Ansbach who has had his own men free him from prison and stuff.
Yeah.
There with the poison already prepped in the wine.
There's
the poison.
Yeah. I've already prepped it for you. He's like, oh, really? And then he's like, wait, I don't want to die. And it's like, oh, come on. Don't read between the lines. You're doing this whether you want to or not.
Would you rather die here, or would you rather get tortured and put up as an example and die slowly, probably, by Reinhardt?
I mean, I don't know if they draw and quarter anybody in this day and age, but
I think what they would do is Reinhardt in some ways would be like, you have a lot to answer for. There's a lot like in a I am right to exact justice upon you because of all the people that you're responsible for forcing to die here.
Yep.
But he's like, you know what? I don't really care how you die, but I'm going to give you up to some people that probably do. And he just throws him in a brig or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if he lives a week, I'll bring him out and have him parade and support me and say that I mark the end of the nobility, and then maybe I'll just shoot him.
Yeah. Maybe there were some family of the people on the planet that got nuked that were off world, right? And then you just bring them over and just let them into his cell.
Can you imagine if basically they take Braunschweig, if he was still alive, if they took him basically, and they're like, this planet, it makes a nice burial ground. And they take a ship and they drop him with a parachute onto the planet.
The irradiated ground and everything.
Yeah. He just died over maybe the course of about a few hours.
And this is why whenever people in stories like this end up being really not just sadistic, but stupidly sadistic, it's like I almost feel a little bit bad for them because they are going to get torn to pieces.
But instead this guy got basically
he actually got off easy.
Like a dead in 4 seconds or dead in 3 seconds poison.
Yep.
Which is in some ways just
way
that's
better
a
than
mercy.
he deserves.
That's a mercy.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
I in some ways, Ansbach as a character, as far as characters that surprised me this episode, Ansbach went to be one of my top 5 favorite tertiary characters in the show. On both sides.
Wow.
The idea that he would have this contradiction within him of I cannot let Braunschweig just do this stupid thing.
Yep.
He is so then loyal to his superior in that case that he ends up getting thrown in jail because of that.
Right.
And then when everything is done, he is able to convince his own guardsmen that not only he should be broken out, but we are going to set up Braunschweig to die and end this as fast as possible so that in the future we will not let tyranny or basically a single pup boy.
Sure. Yep.
They're totally crazy in the fact that they think that they're going to get away with this, but no one will suspect them.
I mean,
no one will see them coming if they do anything effective here.
Yep.
They're the kind of people that I am genuinely scared of. what was the guy that was sent to the Alliance as like you'll help instigate the coup.
He's like,
I laughed at that guy.
Like that was so awful.
I'm like, yeah, sure, you're super helpful. No, it's all going to be set up already because Green Hill is like he's been planning for this, so it doesn't matter if you're there or not.
The Jakob guy or whatever, that's how you do a spy.
Yeah, that's a spy.
And I'm not saying that just because he has a similar name to me. Like that's how you do it. You know, like call out the person of this person was saying traitorous things. You know, yeah.
Great example of using your tertiary characters to excellent effect. Also, I would say my favorite tertiary character of them all, though, was also realized this episode in Lieutenant Commander Bernhard von Schneider.
Yep.
The Chad lad.
The chaddest of lads.
Like, so good.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But, y'all, Legend of Galactic Heroes, it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
Yep. A legendary episode in this legendary show.
Yeah. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there. And all this comes with Discord access. So you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general. And you can also talk with Jacob about the sci-fi novel that he wrote.
Yes, I wrote a sci-fi novel nowhere near as sophisticated as this show. But it's pretty cool, and it's on Amazon. Link in the description down below. Go check it out.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see it there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.